In a world that feels like it's constantly shifting under our feet, circumstances change so fast, promises get broken, people change. It feels like we're always searching for something solid, right?
Absolutely. Something truly stable. An anchor, you could say, in all that flux and uncertainty. It's a deep human need, I think.
It really is. And that search, that deep need, is exactly what we're diving into today. We're looking at a sermon by Dr. Bobby Allen. It's called None Can Compare,
Hmm.
and it's built on Psalm 86, verse 8. Among the gods, there is none like you, Lord. No deeds can compare with yours.
So our mission really is to unpack what makes God so unique, according to this sermon. Why does Dr. Allen say no one, no power, no God, no situation, nothing can compare? We'll look at his power, his love, his faithfulness.
Yeah, think of this as kind of a shortcut to grasping a really big idea. Hopefully, it brings some clarity, maybe a new perspective on finding stability when things feel chaotic.
Right.
So, where does Dr. Allen start building this case? How does he first establish God as this, ultimate constant?
He kicks things off with God's power, his matchless power, making it super clear that nothing else even comes close.
Matchless. I like that word.
Yeah, and Psalm 86.8 really nails it. The psalmist is basically saying, look, I've checked out what the world offers. Other gods, earthly power, you name it, and honestly, nothing compares to you, Lord.
It's like an observation from real life, not just theory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It comes from experience.
That makes me think of Exodus 15, after the Red Sea crossing. Moses and the Israelites, they sing, "Who among the gods is like you, Lord? Who is like you, majestic in holiness, awesome in glory, working wonders?"
hmm That wasn't just like a nice song. It was pure awe. They'd just seen impossible power firsthand.
Yeah.
And the sermon, it really brings those acts of power to life.
Yeah.
We're talking about God parting a sea, literally.
Right.
Shutting the mouths of lions for Daniel, Jesus walking on water, speaking to storms, and the wind and waves just obeyed instantly.
Yeah.
These aren't just old stories. They show a unique kind of authority over everything.
Okay, but how does that ancient power connect to us now? That's what really jumped out at me in the sermon. Dr. Allen says cancer can't compare, debt can't compare, depression can't compare, even death.
Right. Failure can't compare. Even death couldn't compare because Jesus rose with all power in his hands.
That leap from the Red Sea to, say, my worries about the bills or my health, how does that shift things for someone listening?
Well, it fundamentally changes how you see power in your own life. It's not just that God did big things way back when. It's suggesting that the same power that parted the sea is relevant to your personal struggles today. It means even the biggest things you're facing, the stuff that feels completely overwhelming, it's still, well, it's not even in the same league as the power that conquered death itself. It gives you a whole new lens.
Okay, so that's the matchless power, but then the sermon pivots to something just as foundational, right? God's love, described as limitless, sacrificial, unconditional, everlasting.
Exactly. And Romans 5.8 puts it so starkly. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us.
While we were still sinners, not
Yeah.
after we cleaned up our act.
Precisely. And then John 3.1, maybe the most famous verse. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. The sermon calls this extraordinary, incomparable love. What's the big difference here compared to, say, human love?
Well, the sermon draws a clear contrast. It says human love, it can be wonderful, but it may love us today and leave us tomorrow. It often depends on things, right? On how we behave or circumstances. It can fade.
It's conditional, often.
Yeah. But God's love, the sermon says it never fails, never runs dry, never gives up. It's just part of who he is, not based on us.
That's a huge difference. Jeremiah 31.3 echoes that beautifully. I have loved you with an everlasting love. I have drawn you with unfailing kindness. It's not passive. It's an active drawing love.
And I loved this nuance in the sermon. His love sees the worst in us, yet believes the best in us. Think about that for you listening. Love it knows all your flaws, all your mess ups.
And yet still sees value, still sees potential. That's incredibly perceptive
Hey.
and transformative, really.
Absolutely. So if his love is like that, everlasting and unconditional, what does that mean for his promises, his commitment? That leads into the next point. flawless faithfulness.
Right. God's promises, the sermon stresses, are totally reliable. They don't expire. They're always fresh.
Lamentations 3 captures this so well, doesn't it? Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness.
New every morning. It's such a hopeful image.
It really is, and it stands against our human experience, where promises sadly get broken pretty often. But the sermon says God makes promises and keeps every single one. What does flawless mean in this context? Is it just he tries really hard?
Yeah. No, it's much deeper than that. Flawless implies it's part of his actual character. His nature is truth. It's impossible for him to be unfaithful, just like it's impossible for water not to be wet.
Yeah.
It's who he is.
So he literally can't fail on a promise.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
An unblemished record, as the sermon puts it.
And it mentions specific promises that are so comforting, like Hebrews 13.5, he'll never leave us or forsake us.
Mm-hmm. Or Romans 8.28, he works all things together for good for those who love him. That's a big one.
Huge. And Philippians 4.7, the promise of peace that goes beyond our understanding.
And maybe the biggest promise of all, eternal life through Jesus. That's in 1 John 2.25. The core message here is that his track record is perfect. He has never failed, not once.
Wow. For anyone looking for stability, that's bedrock right there.
Absolutely, something you can build on.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. What about God's grace and mercy? The sermon talks about them being abundant, unmatched.
Yeah, in Ephesians 2, verses 8 and 9 is key here. For it is by grace you have been saved, through faith. And this is not from yourselves. It is the gift of God, not by works, so that no one can boast.
So salvation, the biggest thing, isn't something we earn.
Not at all. It's a gift. And the sermon gives these really helpful, simple definitions. Grace. God gives us what we don't deserve. Mercy. God spares us from what we do deserve.
That distinction is so clear. Grace is getting the good we didn't earn. Mercy is not getting the bad we did earn.
Exactly. And it's not just a one-time thing at salvation. The sermon points to Psalm 23.6, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. It's like they're constantly with us, pursuing us.
Following us like a constant companion.
Right. Not something you have to drum up each day, but an active presence.
Which ties perfectly into the final point the sermon makes. God's constant presence, the idea that he's always there, everywhere, even if we don't feel him.
Yeah, Psalm 139 says it all. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, Sheol, the grave, you are there. There's literally nowhere you can go where he isn't.
That's mind-blowing, really. And it contrasts so sharply with human relationships sometimes, right? People walk away.
But the sermon says, when others walk away, God steps closer. When we're alone, his presence surrounds us. When we feel lost, his spirit guides us. It completely reframes what alone means.
So you're never truly alone, even if you feel isolated.
That's the promise. And it tackles that feeling head on. The sermon says, you may not feel him, but he's there. You may not see him, but he's working. You may not understand, but he's in control.
That requires trust, doesn't it? Believing he's working even when everything looks like it's falling apart.
It does. It asks you to trust beyond your senses, beyond your current understanding, to believe there's a hidden work, a guiding hand, even when you can't see the plan.
It wraps up with that beautiful image from Proverbs 18.24. He's the friend who sticks closer than a brother.
Yeah, ultimate loyalty, ultimate closeness, especially when you need it most.
So bringing it all together, the core message from Dr. Allen's sermon seems to be, look, there's a whole lot in this world vying for your attention, your trust, your worship.
Oh yeah, a long list. Money, success, relationships, worries.
Right, but none of it, absolutely none of it, can compare to this God we've been talking about, this matchless, mighty, merciful, miracle-working, everlasting God.
No comparison. That's the bottom line.
And for you listening, wrestling with life, the sermon offers these practical takeaways. When life feels overwhelmingly hard.
Remember, none can compare to his strength.
When you feel isolated or unloved.
Remember, none can compare to his love.
When everything feels shaky and uncertain.
Remember, none can compare to his faithfulness.
And when you feel broken, maybe from past mistakes or current pain.
Remember, none can compare to his healing grace.
So maybe a point of reflection for you is, which part of God's character, his power, his love, his faithfulness, his grace, which one do you need to lean into most heavily right now, in this season of your life?
That's a great question. And maybe think, how can you practically remind yourself day by day of this truth? None can compare to my God.
Really let that sink in. The sermon puts it so powerfully. Not my past, not my pain, not my problems. None can compare to my provider, my protector, my Prince of Peace.
Keep that focus. Keep reminding yourself of that incomparable reality. Because, as the sermon concludes, when you stack God up against anything else, well, there's just no comparison.